Alright, my babies. Today's video is be naive, see things innocently, ask the questions that express your worldview. We're trying to express ourselves, not someone else's view. Our own self, not someone else's view. Cool. The idea is to be naive. Uh, it is a lot more interesting, at least for me, to to try to understand how other people see the world. And in all honesty, the reason it's interesting for me is because they become more interesting. So most of my most of my adulthood, I've basically hit walls with people, specifically because sometimes you ask questions that allow people that place people in a certain situation where they either don't know, and most people don't admit to that. They don't know how they see things or what their opinion is about things and all that stuff. And or basically they just kind of like in a way frustratingly reject you or change the subject and then go into like one of those loops where you're just having conversations. And for a while I struggled with that. It's the idea of like I'm trying to talk to you, not have a conversation about random shit that for some fucking reason you didn't really consider. Uh, didn't really consider before having a conversation. Like literally, it's just like when small talk becomes like an hour, 2 hours long. I mean, sometimes it's just amazing. Like I've hung out with people where I don't speak for like 2, 3 hours, and it's perfectly beautiful. Why? Because it's not that we're just enjoying other people's company, but in that silence, there's a lot of discomfort, especially when there are kind of like these little terms, little agreements that we have with ourselves that we feel like, I have to say something. I'm not feeling cool with this. What about, and any of that shit. So effectively, let's translate naivety first. What is naivety? Naivety is kind of like us either assuming something to be, let's just say positive. Because I don't think somebody assuming something to be negative and getting a positive feedback is considered naive, right? The truth about naivety is normally just people not really able to see the shady sides of things. It's like bright-eyed. Those are the terms that we use. Bright-eyed and naive, innocent, and those are the first things that life kills, society destroys. There's just say innocence when it comes to children playing with snakes, for example, not considering that they might be swallowed whole by them, versus innocence of you trusting somebody and then basically getting backstabbed, right? I think that's the spectrum where like you kind of start becoming naive. Or I think naivety is basically when you're supposed to know but don't. And how do we judge that? Through norms of society. Like you're old enough to know you can't be this naive or something like this. Or when you're approaching something that has already been established for a while and you're just kind of like following a certain rule book instead of just understanding how the game is played. I like how I use the game is played because everything is a game. So my proposition here is be naive. And I feel like I wrote about it recently or I discussed it recently. Naive, naive, naive. When you have things versus nature, karma, energy, maybe. Master creates, key to mastery, living society, money is it worth, braving the unknown. This is nice. Types of errors. Jobs are determined by ability. I don't want you this time. Want what is needed. Question your should. Hmm. I have a strong feeling I talked about it at some point. We digressed for 15 seconds. What is wrong with being naive? Where's the thin line between naive and stupid? If you do something that kills you, it's probably stupid because your naivety was dangerous. But being naive, I think it's something for somebody to be proud of. It means you're not really polluted. You haven't been tainted by the world, by by how the world is currently operating. It's like, remember, like everything we discuss is just concepts. Right and wrong are concepts. Good and bad are concepts. Are just basically understandings that people decided upon among each other. And ask the question that expresses your worldview. We're trying to express our own self, not someone else's view. And that's where I think naivety is important because when you're naive, you're trying to understand something yourself. When you're no longer you're naive, what you did is you basically accepted somebody else's explanation. And that seems to be a bit more, why would I want to think about it when somebody else has considered it already? And to an extent, I would agree that we need to use what other people have considered, but only to have better fuel. Like, why would I think of something for 10 days when I can think about it for a day? But still, it doesn't matter how much philosophy you read over the years that have happened. That's in itself an investment of your thought process. Or you can just sit by yourself and spend all that time considering your own philosophies and picking on things to see where you kind of like look into. So the idea behind us spending time understanding something is going to happen regardless of how we process our own self, how we process our own time. We either do it from the ground up and figure everything out ourselves, or we use where other people have accomplished to figure out things on our own. And it's always that, it's always what we are figuring out for ourselves, not by ourselves. Because even if you teach me something, I'm gonna understand it my way and apply it my way and move forward with it in my way. And this is basically, I think, where naivety shines, because as long as I'm looking for the questions I would ask, regardless if they were coming out of innocence or coming out of curiosity and interest, or just coming out of like an intentional desire to understand or to just finalize something, right? Because like a lot of people are aggressive in how they approach things. Well, most of the world is just mainly okay with not figuring things out. But we all have our interests, and we all kind of like have those like our have things that excite our sensitivities. Awkward. We all have those like moments where we look at something and we go like, I want more of whatever that is in my head. I want more. I want my brain to see it differently. And I think that basically is highlighted by our ignorance, but also is driven by our naivety. Because ultimately, our approach is always from nobody looks at something and sees the worst case scenario first, unless naivety has been killed in them. And naivety at that point is the true form of us expressing ourselves. Because if something has been killed inside of us, that means we basically had to give up on it at one point, right? We gave up at supporting how we could live our lives or how we would survive. And that's where naivety about it kind of like gets killed and an actual standard is built. So why not just see things innocently and approach them basically like, so what if I burnt my hand before realizing that there's like this cup is hot? It doesn't necessarily mean fire is bad, right? Because like, literally our entire evolutionary structure as human beings started when we were able to like cook, because our brains are able to consume fat easier and our stomach was able to digest basically like food easier. When asked the questions that express your worldview, even if they're completely off, or at the very least, if people that have been basically damaged by the world look at it and be like, what the fuck, man? You should know this by now. Yes, but I don't. So that's a question I know that I should know by now. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to feel bad that I don't know it, because it's our personal feelings that kill naivety. And ultimately, because of other people's statements, or actions towards our naivety, is where we decide to shun our interest and just create the pattern that works or that protects us. I don't really think it protects us. I think it just saves us from the drama of evolving. So yeah, be naive. We're trying to express our own self, not someone else's view. And that's where I think naivety highlights who we are to ourselves and what are the things that we like and how we could actually like figure it out. It opens that vulnerability that allows us to strengthen that part of ourselves. Naturally, information, understanding, and growth. It's a video.